It is JSNIP4 here. Every time I see a headline like these two, or even kind of sort of similar, all I could think of is Obama's speech earlier this year. Anyone that says the U.S. economy and not doing well and yada yada, they're peddling fiction. Peddling fiction. Boy, oh boy, I think that term is going to go down in the history books when the Great Depression comes again here in the near future, because of what these criminals have done. Peddling fiction. It's gonna be one of the best quotes ever. Two things here from Zero Hedge. U.S. trade deficit unexpectedly grows in August, pressuring quarter 3 GDP. Pressuring quarter 3 GDP, you mean the one that the last 10 years they've been revising it downward anyways? And speaking of revisions, same thing, Zero Hedge. Factory orders decline for 22nd straight month, longest non-recessionary streak in U.S. history? Longest non-recessionary streak in U.S. history. In other words, either we're in a recession, and some of these numbers might be okay because we're in a recession, or no, we're not in a recession, everything's good, but this data says this is the sorriest good period we've ever had. Factory orders declined for 22nd straight month, longest non-recessionary streak in U.S. history. Presented with little comment, but despite a modest beat month over month, 0.2% versus minus 0.2%. Thanks to, here it is. Thanks to notable downward revisions. Year-over-year data remains in decline for the 22nd month in a row. This is by far the longest streak of contraction in U.S. history, and obviously has never before occurred without a U.S. recession. So, Zero Hedge, are you suggesting that we never left the recession? Well, 24 million people on food stamps, 2008, 2007-ish, 8. Today, 47, 46 million, somewhere around there, on food stamps. You could safely say that's doubled. 24 plus 24 is 48, roughly. I think it's safe to say that either somebody's peddling fiction or somebody else is lying. While the recently reported advanced trade data showed a far better than expected recent trade picture for the U.S., today's official international trade data showed another modest disappointment, with the U.S. trade deficit in August growing from an upward revised $39.6 billion to $40.7 billion, well above the expected $39.3 billion, as imports increased more than exports. The goods deficit decreased less than 0.1 billion, or 100 million, in August to 60.3 billion. The services surplus decreased 1.2 billion in August to 19.6 billion. A detailed breakdown reveals that the exports of goods and services increased $1.5 billion, or 0.8%, in August to 187.9 billion. Exports of goods increased 1.2 billion, and exports of services increased 0.3 billion. The increase in exports of goods reflected an increase in industrial supplies and materials, 1.4 billion, and a decrease in capital goods, 0.7 billion, was partly offsetting. I don't need to give you all these fancy, detailed numbers and stuff. Bottom line, we've got things happening that should not be happening unless we're in a recession or depression. And keep in mind, with the EBT cards, food stamp cards, back in the, after the 1929 depression hit, and it lasted years, 1930, 31, 32, 30, those were bad years. It didn't just, we're back, like us in 2008, big market crash. 2008, 2009, not even a year later, essentially, officially, the recession has ended. It's an official statement by Obama and friends. So we have a recession for a few months and it's over? No, that's not how it works. You can't possibly have a recession that fast and have it over that, have one and have it over that quick. So think about this. Back in those days, the 20s and 30s, they had no such thing as food stamps. There was no EBT card or anything else. You were just in trouble. Now, they did have soup lines and soup kitchens, right? They did have the soup lines, and you see anything that you ever look at, that as long as there's pictures of towns and cities that you can get your hands on during the Great Depression, you will see people in lines for soup and whatnot. Not to mention, I asked my wife's Uncle Pete, 96 years old, and I asked him this 2-3 years ago about it when he was young. He remembered it. Yep, and I'd asked him about, I said, I see all these pictures of people in line and all these, it seemed like a lot of men, really, in line in these soup lines and whatnot. I said, how come you don't really see like kids and families or like a lot of women in there? It's pretty much men. He said, well, he said for the most, those were pretty much like single men. There's no family as far as wife, kids, that sort of thing. That's why you saw all that. If you had a family, wife, husband, whatever, he said there would be essentially what these, what the Mexicans do, how they all live together. They split all the costs. They split the house bills, everything. And there's 2, 3, maybe 4 families sometimes in a house. They live like that, like it's cool now. But I'm talking back in the Great Depression. Uncle Pete said that's what they were doing during the Depression. That's what families did. We're not talking about Mexicans from, coming across the border from Mexico. We're talking about, in other words, immigrants. We're talking about people, American citizens, doing that back then to survive. So he said they would essentially have a bunch of people in that house. Quite a few mouths to feed, he said. He said, but when you consider all the men in the house, and again, back then it was mostly men working. Again, the women raised the kids for that purpose, but the men were mostly the ones working. And he says you might have 6 or so men in that house. Out of those 6 men, someone had a job. You'd stand a good chance to have a couple of them at least had a job. So those 2 people being able to contribute helped. And he said that there was a caseworker of some type, I don't know what the name he used, maybe it was like caseworker or whatever, that would come to the house and they would count and make sure everybody that was accounted for and this and that, and they would give you a few goods and things. But they were very strict on everything, and they had to get a head count. The lady was coming to see you constantly, that sort of thing. But even that, the soup line and stuff, you could see it. These days, there's no soup line. I mean, sure, there's homeless people can go to homeless shelters and eat and that sort of thing. But you can't go outside while we're shopping and going to, I'm going to go to the mall or go wherever, and, oh, there's a soup line over here from people who are out of work. You don't see that. Well, why is that? Because they've erased the soup line and said, here's this plastic card called an EBT card. Your food stamp benefits are on it. You can actually use that card for all kinds of different stuff. You would think, oh, I can only use it for food, but in actuality, there's so many different ways that they can swipe it and use it for all kinds of stuff. And remember, I talked about this a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, and I remember, but it had to have been before we went to Tennessee, so that was 2013. So this was probably 2011 or 2012. And there was a guy in line at Walmart, and he sees a immigrant Mexican family in front of him, a man, specifically getting ready to pay his bill for his groceries and stuff he bought at Walmart. And he says, I watched the guy open his fat wallet, big old wallet, and there was a chock, believe it or not, chock full of cash. But he didn't touch the cash. He pulled out a card, EBT card, swiped it, paid for his stuff, left. The guy gets up there, asks the lady at Walmart, hey, listen, how often do you think people are, how many of these customers that are coming through here are actually using an EBT card? And I'm going to go off memory, but it was either 1 out of 3 or every other person. So either 50%, half the people were using it, or it was 1 out of 3. I almost want to say it was half, if I recall. Half the people in this Walmart, and this isn't like in the middle of poor, lower class area where you would expect, oh, the unemployment in this area is terrible, so it's expected. No, it's a decent area. Let me guess. 1-800 Polling Company. We get calls every single day. polling this, polling that, polling this, polling that. And again, so because that phone's ringing, I now have to get off topic for a second. When they call, I'm one guy. We are one family. How in the world are we getting called so much by all these different freaking polling companies? It is out of control. And we don't answer. I don't even answer. I've answered once, and I did one thing, and that was it. So I'm not doing this again because, number one, you're probably wasting my time. When I tell you I'm voting for Trump, you're probably not even going to count it anyways, and I just wasted my time. What you want to hear on the other end of that line is, oh, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Yes, I am. Who are you voting for? Please say Hillary. Please say Hillary. I'm gonna vote for Hillary this time. Oh, ding, 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 ding. We got a hot one. We got a hot one. Put that on the polling thing we're doing today. That way, when we can throw that out to the news tomorrow, it'll say, Republicans voting for Hillary. She's now gained 2 points. It's all nonsense. So point being, if my phone's ringing this much, and I talk to people at work, we talk about this fairly frequently. They're getting called, he's getting called, she's getting called, poll. Why is it with that many people being polled? This is just me in my single job. One job, my house, me. You getting polled, I'm getting polled. I got called last night, I got called yesterday. Okay, so this is happening. Surely they didn't just pick my company that I work at to poll people. That means everybody's getting these freaking calls. How in the hell are we polled 1,000, CBS, MSNBC poll, Rasmussen poll today, 1,000 people were polled. 1,000 people? Are you having to weed out that many Trump supporters to get down to your 1,000 numbers that make it look good for Hillary? Is it that bad? I think the answer is yes. When 200 to 300 people show up for her rallies, and sometimes tens of thousands show up for Trump, I think that's the case. So whoever the hell that was, don't you ever make that phone ring when Jason Ipfor is doing a video for that nonsense. Because I know it's nonsense. I wish I could just have a little thing on there. Oh, polling, hang up instantly. Cell phone, you can actually there's some apps where you can block calls and they try to call back and it instantly hangs up on them. Which, by the way, there's one called, I think, Should I Answer, that I use on my phone. Is that what it's called? Should I Answer? Protection is active. And if you get a phone call, it's a free app. If you get a phone call, hello, who's this? Oh, telemarketer. Not interested, bye. It pops right up. Was this, rate the call, good or bad? Bad call, telemarketer, spammy garbage save. When I do that, and then that number calls another person that has that app on there, because I ranked it as crap, their system, their phone is going to already see that it's crap. So when it calls their phone, it's going to ring, hang up. They don't even have to get involved and hit rate or anything. So that's what's nice about this kind of stuff. This is like peer-to-peer spam blocking. Again, Should I Answer is the name of the app. It's free. I've been using it. It works pretty darn good, I must say. And these fake spammy numbers that call you, they spoof them. What is this? Hello, this is IRS calling. You are having a lawsuit filed against you. Please call back the number to discuss this matter. Oh, yeah, let me do that. Okay. Yep. Should I answer? Nope. Spam? Yes, IRM scam call. Title, IRS scam call, save, out of my face. Phone rings, hangs up. Whenever you hear your cell phone ring and hang up, hang up. You know Should I Call has blocked some garbage. And with all the damn phone spoofing now these days, where they fake the number, you got to do something. It's out of control. So anyways, before I had to get off track on you, more revisions, 2 different articles, both revised downward. Why can't I come out here? If this country is doing great and people like me are peddling fiction when we talk about the markets and the economy, if this country is not in a recession and everything is awesome, how come I cannot come out here for even one time as far back as I can think about me doing videos? Years. I've been doing this for almost 6 years. I've got YouTube videos going back 6 years. Why can't I come out here one time and say, hey, Jason at 4 here, quarter 4 GDP, USA, unexpectedly rose significantly better than what they thought. They had to revise it. Why can't I come out here and do that one time? Just once. And I'll tell you why. Because even if they fudge the numbers hardcore so that I could go do that, whoa, we got some great numbers here. Jason at 4. Revision in a positive way. This is good news. You know what would happen next month? There'd be a double revision. Revision for next month, it looks like crap. Or in this case, quarterly. Next quarter looks like crap. And while we're at it, we're revising the last quarter. Double revision. They do that too. Markets, don't care, rally. Markets, rally. So, rant off. Take care, my friends.